So welcome everybody to Climate Courage Stories from the Classroom. As I said, Climate Majority Project ran a series of events in the last 3 months of last year called Resourcing Climate Courage, and this is the sort of next iteration of that series. And our intention is very much to provide a space for teachers and climate educators to meet people such as Laureline, Simon, who's with us today, people who are doing innovative stuff in relation to climate education with students and with other climate educators. So we've got an hour's programme arranged for today, and yeah, firstly, if I just introduce Laureline. So Laureline Simon, a climate resilience explorer and pathfinder who's led climate change mitigation and adaptation projects at the international level since 2006. Among other initiatives, she led a research program on climate adaptation in cities of the global south and supported international climate negotiations focusing on climate change, adaptation and loss and damage with the United Nations Climate Change Secretariat. She founded her organisation One Resilient Earth in 2020 with a view to fostering transformative and regenerative approaches to growing the climate resilience of individuals, communities and ecosystems. One Resilient Earth offers transformative learning experiences to young adults, creatives, educators and sustainability professionals in collaboration with artists, scientists, indigenous knowledge holders, eco-psychologists and regeneration practitioners. So thank you for joining us today, Laureline. And we're going to be talking about how to resource ourselves as climate change educators and support our students in navigating those emotions that are associated with climate change. And as a way of checking in and sort of bringing us into the space, we're gonna actually start off with some two-person breakout rooms, if that's okay with people. So we're going to allocate 2 people each to a breakout room and give each person the chance in that breakout room to share about their experience of talking to young people about climate. You know, what have you found challenging in talking to a young person, or in the classroom, or with your family or your communities? What is it that's proving tricky? Because that's what this series is about, is trying to find ways that we can help and support. The time that we've got for that, we've got 10 minutes altogether, but I think if we give maybe 3 minutes each in the breakout rooms, so 6 minutes in the breakout room altogether, and then come back, and if anybody's got anything they want to share at that point about, you know, what they've spoken about, we'd love to hear it. Is that okay with people? Welcome back, everybody. Sorry to do that to you, to put you straight into a conversation with someone. But hopefully people have had a chance to sort of share you know, what it's actually like for them in this space of, you know, of trying to talk with young people in particular about, you know, what the future may look like, and how we need to respond and react to that. So the floor's open if anyone would like to put a hand up, virtual or otherwise, and just, you know, share something that came from their conversation.
I have to get started, just to break the ice. I was talking to Marta in Oslo, and we were talking about young people's frustration with sort of the inaction of older people and governments, and while they're being educated in climate issues and sustainability, they don't feel like the older generations are doing enough about a thing that we know to be true and happening, and that they're going to bear the brunt of the inaction.
Great, thanks, Delilah, and certainly the research. I'm thinking about the Caroline Hickman article in the Lancet from a few years ago. Certainly backs that up. Meryl, briefly, and then maybe we'll move on to the main part of the presentation today.
So I was really lucky to talk to Don, who's in Buffalo, in New York, and we were making comparisons with, you know, in the States, they're having huge issues, obviously, with government. But luckily, he's in New York State, which means that they can have their own education policy. So they are embedding climate education. But, you know, with those conversations, we actually mentioned Caroline Hickman's name because we're having those conversations. And these are international issues affecting children around the world, and making it, and that just made it feel very global rather than something local. But I work in the northeast of England, and, you know, some of the problems we have are the fact that we've got huge social deprivation in some of the areas around Newcastle and up on the northeast coast. And, you know, so sometimes children they can't take on that much more because they're worried about food on the table. So, you know, there's so many issues going on, but really lovely to speak to Don.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Marilyn. Good to reference, and it's a conversation we're having in the Climate Majority Project at the moment around this Climate Courage campaign. You know, to what extent do we focus in on climate, and to what extent do we talk about just everything? So thank you for that, Meryl. Perhaps Josephine, if you could put a link to the Caroline Hickman article in the chat.
Yeah, we'll do.
So for purposes of moving us along, I'm going to turn now to Laureline, and I've been really fortunate over the last 10 weeks or so to be part of a group who've been practicing, trying out some of the work in the teacher's handbook that Laureline's Clarity project has produced. But yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Laureline to share with us what they've been up to.
Thanks a lot, Les, and happy to meet all of you tonight. Going to share this presentation with you that introduces actually how to help students navigate emotions associated with climate change, reflecting on the experience of the organization I run, One Resilient Earth, before focusing more on the Clarity project, which is actually a European project. And I'm very fortunate to see that some of the partners from the project are here in the room, including Malta from Climate Creativity and Laureline from Legacy 17. So let's get started. So I want to talk to you today about, why navigate emotions associated with climate change. Why do we use the word navigate instead of transform, move away from, get rid of? The second point would be, how can we help students navigate their climate emotions through the Clarity project, how we've done it, and what are the resources available. Then I'll share a few of the lessons learned for you as teachers and educators willing to support your students, and suggest some possible way forward associated with the Clarity project. So why this idea of navigating climate emotions? The first point that's important, I think, for all of us to remember or to remind ourselves of is that climate change poses an existential threat to humanity and disproportionately affects the most vulnerable. And so feeling a whole mix of emotions in relation to climate change is totally normal, valid, and to some extent unavoidable. Usually the people who don't feel a lot about climate change either do not really know what climate change is and how it's going to affect us to varying degrees, or may actually be so overwhelmed by what is happening that as a coping mechanism, maybe unconsciously, they cannot even engage with the full realization of what the climate crisis is. The second point is that it's very difficult to make climate emotions go away. I'm guilty of having tried to do this myself. So you can see me at the extreme right of this picture. I've been working on climate change for almost 20 years now. And one of the reasons why I started working on climate change is that I hope by addressing the problem and working day in and day out on climate change, I would stop feeling anxious. I would stop feeling distressed about it. The sad news is it doesn't work. I mean, you can work as much as you want. The emotions keep coming. They're very numerous. They go from this feeling of anxiety, fear, and distress to very deep sorrow, frustration, exhaustion. So there are so many emotions that are involved in being in contact with this crisis that work is not going to make them go away. It may make you burn out at some point, and I think some young activists also become aware of that, but it's not, the emotions are unlikely to go away through work or by trying to make them go away. So then, and in addition to that, maybe another point is that the work that needs to do to address climate change, the root causes of climate change, and also the root causes of climate vulnerability requires some deep systematic change. And this type of change takes time. It takes a lot of energy, and many emotions are going to emerge along the way. So it's not just the emotions that are related to the climate crisis that we need to look at, or like the very realization of climate change, but it's also emotions related to trying to work together on organizing and, trying different areas of work or studies and trying to collaborate even when it doesn't work, and engaging with the idea of transformation and, a very deep change of cultural values we may have to adopt. And all of that is going to bring a lot of emotions that will need to be felt and worked with. So based on this lived experience, based on research, and based on a lot of co-creation processes with young adults, which are the people we've been working with for the longest time through One Resilient Earth, we have become very much aware that students who are 18 plus need safe spaces to feel emotions, and at the same time to work together to co-create a more just and climate resilient world. In order to do that, we've offered them different opportunities to engage through climate circles, which are spaces for open sharing and deep listening about climate change. We then also help support youth-led youth climate circles so that the young people would be together in sharing about their emotions and can talk about all the emotions they feel, including this feeling of betrayal and exhaustion and disappointment. More than disappointment is weak compared to betrayal, but everything they feel in relationship to the older generations. We've also created some youth learning journeys towards climate resilience and regeneration, where we worked with artists and scientists and indigenous knowledge holders. And it became clear through those experiences, when we worked with 900 plus young adults, that we needed to change the way we teach. And that included some co-design with the young people we were trying to support, but it also includes some co-design with a climate psychologist that helped us reflect a lot on how we teach and the posture, the top-down posture that we have, and the places we live in the classroom for how we feel about what's going on, for choice, for consent, and for free expression. And so we co-designed pretty innovative learning journeys. We set up a transnational online community and realized that we could do a lot of good for those young adults, but what about children? Could we transfer what we had learned with young adults to children? Was there something different about supporting children in feeling climate emotions? And that led us to look for partners to help set up this Clarity project, this European project. So Clarity is about transformative climate resilience education. The idea is to help, is to go from climate anxiety to resilience, creativity, connection, and regeneration. It is a project led by 6 different partners. Lund University, Climate Creativity, Legacy 17, the Real School, and the Vision Works. In addition to us, it's funded by the European Union. And it responds to this understanding that we have of the situation, which is that children and youth are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change, with their emotional and mental well-being on the line at a critical time in their development. And also that we need a deep shift in climate education to build the new competencies that students need for inner change and collective action towards climate resilience and regeneration. And in order to do that, we need to work directly with teachers and other non-formal educators, and we need to support them in getting to that deep shift through pedagogical tools, through learning materials, but also by working on policy making and trying to push for changes in policies in parallel. And so the goal of Clarity is to advance transformative climate resilience education. So it has to help learners shift from this state of climate anxiety to resilience, creativity, connection, and regeneration. Also acknowledging that a lot of climate education performed today in the classroom does not take into account the emotional and mental well-being of the students, and is likely to focus more on like individual actions that can be taken instead of more collective actions that also contribute to addressing the impacts of climate change. And what we have done with the Clarity project so far is, in addition to literature review, obviously, of what's happening out there, and consultation with educators to take on board all the good ideas and initiatives that were undertaken already in this field of education that integrated emotional mental well-being. We have developed a policy brief called From Climate Anxiety to Climate Resilience and Regeneration. We have developed a green competency framework for children and youth. And we've also created a draft toolbox with pedagogical tools for teachers and educators, a pilot training for teachers and educators. We have designed an online learning hub, and we are just starting monthly climate educators learning circle so that we can really learn together and deepen the work we've started through the project. And in terms of lessons learned, to really answer directly these questions of how can we help students navigate climate emotions, how as teachers we can do that. There are like 6 main lessons that I'd like to share with you. So the first is that you need to take care of yourself first as a teacher or an educator. You need to take care of your own emotional, mental well-being and develop your own capacity to welcome and navigate all the emotions that come with climate change. And there are very concrete ways to do that through self-care, community care, and nature care that works for you. It's also very important to provide some space to acknowledge climate emotions during class, and it doesn't need to be very long. It can be just a few words to check how students are feeling, to give the opportunity to do some movements that can help release emotions. For that, it's very important to share methods and exercises for emotional co-regulations. And I'm going to show you one of the exercises afterwards, which is called the climate emotion symbols. It's also important to create safe spaces to express and explore climate emotions, to learn about climate trauma and trauma-informed practices, and to highlight the role of taking action while highlighting also the limits of taking action. But taking action, including collective action, is very critical to create a movement and to help students process those emotions while taking action. In the end, what we're trying to help teachers do first so that they can help the students do the same thing for themselves is to expand their window of tolerance, which is this space in which they can access both reason and emotion, or they can remain mentally engaged with the information they have in relation to climate change, so that they have the means to whenever they're experiencing hyperarousal, meaning that they're being emotionally distressed, overreactive, or when they're experiencing hypoarousal, meaning they're feeling depressed, lethargic, numb, both of which can happen and are normal. We want to give teachers and educators the means through different activities to go back into their window of tolerance and to expand it over time so that they can share those tools and methods and provide spaces for students to practice expanding their own window of tolerance. And in terms of possible way forward, specifically on the Clarity project, oops, sorry, I went too fast. It's very important to highlight that we need to continue learning together. We have a Transforming Climate Education online group, which is available, where we share resources and questions in relation to the research and the work done for the Clarity project. We're going to start an educators learning circle this Thursday. And we're also going to offer future cohort-based teachers training under Clarity, so similar to what Les experienced starting in September. So I'm going to stop here for now. And yeah, let me know if we have some time for questions. Otherwise, we can move to the exercise and take the questions later.
And maybe as well, some of the things that you've referenced on that last slide, we could put the links in the chat for those. So we'll circulate them afterwards as well. But if we put them in the chat, then I'm thinking particularly about the educators circle this Thursday, in case people wanted to tag into that. Thank you so much, Laureline. My suggestion would be if others are in agreement, is let's do the exercise and then come back, and then if people have got things that they want to feed back on the exercise, you know, that experience, or have more general questions, and then we take time at the end for that. Does that make sense?
All right, then we're going to move to the exercise so that you have the opportunity to experience, you know, to get a first sense of one of the pedagogical tools we've developed that you can use for yourself first as an educator working on developing their own emotional literacy or fluency with emotions related to climate change, and then that you can do in the classroom, not maybe with the youngest students, maybe with some adaptation, but with teenagers and older students without any difficulties. So the exercise is called the climate emotion symbol. And for that, you need like a piece of paper, if you have one, and a pen. So that would be great. If you don't, you can always use your phone and just put, you know, like a white page on it, so something where you can draw. We're going to draw something very simple. So if you have a piece of paper, that's great. If you have a pen or like a felt pen, you know, anything you can use to draw. And it's going to be a very simple drawing because we're talking about drawing symbols. So it can be, you know, just a few lines, doesn't have to be anything complicated. And so if you have your paper and your pen in front of you, I'm going to guide you through this exercise. So it starts with like a small meditative or contemplative exercise, and then we'll start. I'll let you know when is the time to draw the symbol. In order to do this exercise, it would be nice if you can put your two hands together like this, and you rub them. One hand against the other. I'm going to do it fast or slowly, whatever feels good for you, but we're going to do it for a little while. So that's, you know, so during the whole exercise, until I tell you to stop, basically, you're going to be rubbing your hands. And if you want, you can close your eyes. If it doesn't feel comfortable, you don't have to. If you want to switch off your camera, you're free to do so. But basically, we're going to get started. So for those who want to close your eyes, this is the right time to do it. And we're going to rub our hands together. And I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and sit in a way that feels comfortable for you on your chair. You can put your feet on the ground, feel your back against the chair or the sofa. Feel your entire body being held so that you can relax into your posture. As you take a deep breath, be aware of any tensions that you feel in your face, around your eyes, your cheeks. Try and release those tensions, breathe into them, go down into your throat and your shoulders. Continue rubbing your hands, but try to have your arms as relaxed as possible. Go down into your chest, your belly. Continue taking deep breaths and relaxing. Go down to your thighs, all the way down to your feet. Take some deeper breath. And now that your body is more relaxed and relaxing, I'm going to ask you to connect with the idea of climate change, or the image that comes to you when I say climate change, and to try and feel how it feels in your body. If you have any new tensions forming, any pain happening, any part of your body where this climate change activates something or tenses something or creates some pain or discomfort. And I'm going to ask you to feel into this discomfort, tension, just the general feeling that comes to you when I talk about climate change, and to stay there a little. Stay with the discomfort or this specific feeling, sensation. And now you're going to stop rubbing your hands, open your eyes, take your pen, and the first image that comes to you, the first symbol that comes to you in relation to this feeling or sensation, you're going to draw. Don't overthink it, just draw the first things that comes to you when you connect to this feeling or sensation in your body. All right, so it's meant to be a simple drawing, so we should all be good. And now that you have your drawing, you're going to go into a breakout room for 10 minutes. So the instructions are in the chat, but just so that I let you know what you're going to do. So you'll be 3 in the breakout room. The first thing you're going to do is to show your symbol to the other participants in the room. Just show it, don't say anything. And then there'll be a first round of discussion where the other people in the room are going to try to interpret your symbol, what they see in the symbol you've drawn. And then a second round where you are going to explain what you felt or what it meant for you or what it evokes for you. And at the very end, you have, if you still have time, feel free to reflect on how this experience was for you, how it felt for you. Is that clear? Is this fine for everybody? Okay, great. So let's see you back in.
We're running slightly behind schedule, so I'm going to suggest that we knock it down to 8 minutes for the breakout rooms.
All right. And see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody. So we were reflecting in our group how this is an exercise that maybe is suitable for sort of, you know, older young people, university students, college students. We've got a little bit of time now just to take any thoughts, reflections, observations from what you've just done on the exercise in breakout rooms, and also any broader questions for Laureline about the Clarity Project, about how people can be involved in it. So I'll open up. If anybody wants to speak, just raise a hand. Caroline.
Two questions, one slightly more serious than the other, but the first one was just about the exercise and trying to understand the purpose of rubbing your hands. I was wondering whether, because I was expecting that was to be because then your hands would be warm and you'd put them somewhere on your body to kind of, I don't know. So I was interested in that just kind of curiously. But the more substantive question was to do with what you were saying earlier about the policy brief. That, as I understand, you saying that the Clarity Project had produced some kind of policy brief. Would we find that online somewhere? And in terms of the recommendations that you've drawn together, have you looked at policy change at a national level, whether that be on teacher training or on more time in classrooms and so forth? Or was it more about just kind of sharing your findings more informally, I guess, through the different kind of networks that you have? And thank you so much for the presentation. It was really, really interesting.
Thank you. The hands question first. It's just about keeping the energy flowing, and it has something to do with like bilateral stimulation that can help people relax. And the whole exercise was designed with an artist whose name is Alois, who is a visual and theater-based artist. So I'll ask him next time I see him exactly why the hands, but that's the information I have right now. Regarding the policy brief, so we are a European project working with partners in different countries. So we're based, both in Norway and Sweden and Germany and Hungary. And so we try to develop a policy brief that had some policy recommendations, but that would be both specific enough and not nationally specific enough to remain relevant for all the different countries who are part of the project. And it is available online. In the links that we've shared in the chat, you should be able to see it, or maybe one of us in the team can also share it, the direct link to the policy brief. And the purpose of, and the idea of making it available is that we hope it can be taken up to either support, other groups and movements who are working on trying to influence policy making in relation to climate education, and that it can influence basically different level of policy making for education, from international level to European level to national level. And I think we'd be very happy to, again, to join forces. It's a proposition. It's like different ideas of what kind of policy changes would be needed for this new type of education to be really implemented and to be successful, and for teachers and educators to be supported along the way. But any support that we can have in, disseminating it, or any feedback we can have on ways to improve it, or additional dimensions that would need to be added, we're very grateful to have those.
Great. And I've put a link in the chat to the policy brief and the Climate Courage campaign. Part of what we're trying to do is develop that case from teachers and climate educators who are saying this is something that is a challenge for us, this is something that we need support on. And then part of it, and particularly with Caroline Lucas's help, is to think about how do we bring about broader policy change. And yeah, we'd love to collaborate and share lessons on that. Guy has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to underline the importance of using imagery as simultaneously serving to contain emotion and also express it, and bringing in the right brain. So I thought that was good to see that. So basically, image sits between emotion and speech. So it's a good technique. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca.
Yeah, I'm involved in I'm a psychologist by background, and I've recently joined something called the Education Policy Alliance. So there's lots of work going on completely separately from the climate sort of space around the need to reform education in general to be more trauma informed and more emotionally literate, actually, and more supportive throughout the structures of educational setting to emotions. And because certainly in the UK we have a massive issue in our secondary schools that they are just traumatizing to a whole range of students, not just your non-typical student, whatever that might be, neurodivergent, etc., etc. So I just would love to see a join, and you pull at a thread, don't you, and it becomes completely overwhelming. But if we're going to reform education around the climate, then the challenge is folding that into general reform, which is our educational system has got the way it's got because it's symptomatic of the wider system that is got the way we've got because it's chasing all the wrong metrics, etc., etc. So I don't know quite, but what I'm saying in terms of a question, other than does anybody else, how can we collaborate across something like the Education Policy Alliance, which is all focused on well-being, everybody thriving, and bring in the climate without necessarily labeling it as the climate for people for whom that isn't top priority. Yeah.
Well said. I'm seeing nods and thumbs up around the room and in the chat. So yeah, please do connect with us outside of this space. And oh, you've just moved, and we'll pick that conversation up. But certainly within our sort of thinking about strategy for the Climate Courage campaign, we're thinking how do we situate it within that broader sense of overwhelm that a lot of young people are feeling. The time is too short for a full discussion, so if there's no other hands up, I'm gonna call an end to that part of the session there. And our intention with this sort of Climate Courage Stories from the Classroom series is to try and provide these sessions on a sort of monthly basis. Having said that, we haven't got anything in April because we're hoping we'll have more to say on the strategy and the campaign asks in April. But we do have an event scheduled in for Tuesday the 13th of May. And there is a link to sign up to that. This is with Dr. Gareth Morgan, who is working, well, he's at Leicester University, but he's also working with the Climate Psychology Alliance, particularly in relation to their support for youth. So that promises to be, another angle on what kind of support is out there for teachers who are working with young people and looking for extra resource, extra support to hold that safe space for young people. If you're signed up to the Climate Courage campaign newsletter, you'll get information about that. And if you're not already signed up to the Climate Courage campaign newsletter, we'll drop that into the chat as well. And that's really going to be the main channel that we've got for sharing information about the campaign. And really I'd ask people perhaps, as we've said, what we want to do is get that body of evidence from teachers and head teachers that this is an issue for them. So maybe if I could ask people to share the link to the sign up for the campaign newsletter with one teacher that or one head teacher that Brenny, I know you shared this with the principal at your sixth form college, so thanks for that. But that's how we're going to develop this campaign is by going out there and asking people, putting this in front of people and saying, we think this is an issue that needs more attention. How about you? So it just remains for me to say thank you then. Thank you so much, Laureline. for your support with this and for sharing all the work that you've been doing, which is just, I mean, it's just the tip of the iceberg what you've shared here today. The clarity, the community platform, which we'll circulate details for in the follow-up to this, is just a treasure trove of useful information and tools. Any of the other organisers have anything else they want to say before we close? We were going to invite people to post one thing today they've learned in the chat. If you've still got energy after a long day, yeah, feel welcome to put any other thoughts or ideas in the chat, and we'll keep the room open just a little bit longer, just in case anybody's got any questions or wants to talk further. But other than that, thank you for coming today.